episode of today's story. This story was told to our channel by a female friend. It is also related to the Ngai charm. The person who was charmed was actually that friend's husband. During this time you are very miserable, because your husband is like that, who wouldn't be in pain. Your name is Truck and your husband's name is Dun. Both of you are from Ventra province. Your house is also very close, exactly in Mo Ki Nam district of Ventra province, Vietnam. You said before getting married, you two also got to know each other for a very long time, more than 10 years, so this time has proven that you two understand each other very well. That's why they decided to get married. After 5 years of marriage, the two of them lived normally and were very happy. Currently, the couple also works and lives in Binh Thuong. Your husband is the manager of a printing company. Even in my Phuoc, the salary is quite high and stable, and you hire a house near an industrial park to open a cosmetics store. The couple's life was quite stable and happy until the 15th of June, 2023, when something started to happen to your husband. You remember very clearly that day was the day of your father-in-law's death anniversary. Your husband asked for 2 days off from work to go home with you to attend his father's death anniversary. When I returned home to attend the funeral, it was very normal. At that time, there were also many relatives and friends. Every now and then, when the couple returned to their hometown, everyone was very happy. That day, your husband drank a lot because your husband had just received guests and returned home from time to time, so his friends invited him to drink a lot. But your husband's wardrobe, that is, this Dun guy, is very strong. Your husband's appearance is very big, so he is very strong. When the party lasted until the afternoon, the guests slowly left. At that time, the house was packed with only one drinking table, which was her husband. You and your close friends in the neighborhood. At this time, everyone was drunk, no one was as sober as before, including a guy named Hai. Then this guy said, "Okay, let's go to family karaoke now. We only meet once in a while," so when karaoke was suggested, everyone at the table agreed. After that, your husband also asked you to go to family karaoke. You felt that it was normal and there was nothing wrong with family karaoke. So, every once in a while, my husband goes home and lets him go out with his friends for a meal. These men just got together to find a place to do karaoke. When I go to a karaoke bar, there is no one who will do karaoke and my family will be vegetarian. At first, each man called a flight attendant to sit next to him. At that time, his husband also called a girl, her name was Liu, from Travin. After getting to know each other, the two of you asked for each other's phone numbers. At this time, you were at home cleaning. You looked at the clock and saw that it was already 8 p.m. You saw that your husband wasn't on shift yet. Came home, so you took out your phone to call. However, your husband's phone rings but your husband doesn't pick up. You feel very annoyed. So you call a lot but your husband doesn't pick up. Exactly 1 hour after 9 o'clock, you saw your husband come home. Even though you were very upset, seeing your husband so drunk made you tell him to go to sleep. But now you don't know where he went or what he did, because she drank too much, so her husband slept until morning when he lay down. When they woke up in the morning, the couple had breakfast as usual, then they said goodbye to their family and returned to Binh Thuong. When you return to Binh Thuong, you see that your husband has strange behavior. Normally, your husband also talks to you and cares about you. He still hugs me when he sleeps at night, but why does he feel so strange today? You also think that maybe my husband has just returned from the hometown. He's tired from a long journey and has drunk a lot of alcohol, and then you don't think anymore to let him. I'll rest so I can go to work tomorrow. The next morning, you see that your husband is normal, driving the car to work like every other day. Until evening, you see your husband. He still hasn't come home at this time. Normally, he comes home at 8 p.m. Okay, it's already 9 o'clock in the evening and wide open. Think it must be the phone. My husband's phone ran out of battery or lost signal or something, so I couldn't contact him. So you just wait another hour, 2 more hours. Maybe it's this guy. My husband is out drinking with friends. If you were so tired from drinking yesterday, you wouldn't have the strength to drink anymore. You're worried about your husband but also frustrated. Why isn't your husband home yet? You lay down and waited for a while and felt tired. So you fell asleep. When you woke up, it was already morning. It was about 6 o'clock. You looked back in the house and didn't see your husband anywhere. That means your husband hasn't come home yet. Right now you're very worried, so you run to your husband's company to ask. When you arrived at the company, you found out that your husband had asked the boss for 2 more days off so that you could go back to your hometown to work. You were shocked. What job do you have? The couple just returned to their hometown for their father-in-law's anniversary and then returned. So what else do they have to do? But if you have any work to do, you have to talk to you. Besides, your husband doesn't say a word and he can't be reached on the phone right now. What is that? You were so upset that you called your hometown. Your parents also called and contacted your hometown, but both families said they didn't see your husband back here. Now you're scared again. I was worried, but now I don't know what to do. I just want to cry. Just sit and cry alone like that. Then you also sit at home to wait for your husband 1 more day to see what happens, because my husband also wants to think about the second company. Just a day. So try to wait another day. The next day your husband will also return home. When you see your husband coming back, you are both happy and angry. You ask, where are you going without telling me? I can't reach you on the phone, so why? At this time, your husband did not answer. You also did not say a word, but opened your eyes and looked at you hesitantly. But you said, the husband's eyes are red right now. They are always red like that. You said, looking at him right now was very scary. It was like he was a completely different person. Then your husband went straight into the house and climbed up on the bed to lie down to sleep. At this moment, your husband just turned his face to the wall and his back to the outside, sleeping very passionately, probably because he was very tired from the journey. I saw my husband sleeping soundly. That's why you took your husband's phone to look at it. Why couldn't you call after calling? When you looked at the phone, you were startled. My husband took out the main SIM card in the phone. No wonder you can't call anyone. Then you scroll through your phone and you stop dead in your tracks. In your husband's phone there is a Facebook page of a woman named Liu. The two of you are talking about love. I'm so affectionate, call me husband or wife. Then this Liu girl even sent pictures of herself and her face to her friend's husband. At this point, you got mad and couldn't keep calm anymore, so you woke up your husband to ask what happened. Why is it so weird? I've lived for so many years and suddenly my husband is having an affair. Now I have to ask him to find out. When your husband woke up, you said he looked very scared. Suddenly his eyes were bloodshot. But he glanced back and forth like that. At this point you were so angry that you weren't afraid anymore. You threw the phone down. You said, "What are these pictures? What are these messages? Now you have a concubine outside, right?" "Start." Your husband answered in a very confusing way. Your husband said, "She's my wife. You can't touch my phone." Your husband just snatched the phone back. "Go straight to the toilet to take a shower." At this point you say you are completely devastated. Now you can only cry. You cry very hard. You say that in the past, your husband was not like that. His personality is very gentle. His speech is very soft. Be gentle with your wife and children. Attitude like this. Even though your husband is familiar with this willow, every day your husband leaves and comes back home to you, only his personality has completely changed. Normally, your husband also likes to drink a lot. When his friends call him, he happily goes out to drink, but now when friends or relatives call, he never answers the phone, but the phone is stuck in his chest. When I text you, at night when I sleep, my face is facing the wall and my back is facing out, no longer paying attention to you. Suddenly that day he was sleeping like that. Your husband had just set the alarm for 3 o'clock, seeing that he was sleeping soundly like that. Suddenly the alarm woke him up. Your husband led the car to the door. You asked, "Where are you going now?" He answered calmly, "Then go pick up Willow, because today he is in Ventra and came to visit me." Oh my God, when you heard that, your blood was already shining. You said at that time you were so hot that you wanted to take a knife and stab your husband to death. After saying that, the guy driving the car drove away like that. You were so angry. That's why you went to this Willow's Facebook page to see, and you see that this girl is not beautiful, she's black, she's not tall, she's a bit short, especially she's so tattooed. God, his job is not that decent anymore. He works as a hostess for a karaoke shop. That's why my husband loves it so much. You suddenly think that perhaps my husband has been infected with the Ngai charm. It's what? You also believe in spirituality very much, because you know that these girls often use Ngai charms to attract customers, so you went to find a teacher to ask if your husband is under the spell or not. Then you are introduced to a teacher in the new city of Bintwang. This teacher is a woman in her 50s. In fact, this teacher had a younger brother, and this younger brother passed away. When I was 5 years old, I returned to my body. When I returned to my body, this younger brother also said that your husband was under a spell. The person who used the spell on your husband was a woman from the west, near the sea. That's too much. Because if you investigate this willow, it's right next to the sea. But this teacher can only look at it and can't solve the Ngai talisman, because this teacher is not a charm teacher. But because the negative person comes back, it's just that we know it but we can't solve it. After finding out that your husband was under a spell, you were very sad. Now you are almost 3 months pregnant. When you should have been pregnant, the couple would have been very happy. Now your child is suddenly in such a difficult situation. The father is under a spell, only cares about the woman, other than that he no longer loves and cares for the mother and child. At night his face remains bewildered. Then he keeps holding the phone to text. Believe me that girl, now the willow has also come to Bintwang to easily reach your husband. Your husband keeps going back and forth like that. Even though you know that your husband is under a spell, which woman isn't jealous? Seeing your husband keep going back and forth with Liu makes you very angry, but you said no. Every time Liu is mentioned, your husband gets mad and curses you so much. Every time the couple has an argument or whatever happens, it starts with your husband texting and sharing everything with Liu, just like Liu. He controls your husband like that, so when he knows your husband is under a spell, you don't dare tell him, afraid that your husband will tell you everything, then afraid that this little girl will find out and make a spell to make your husband very sick. Then that's why you don't dare tell your husband. That's why you secretly find a teacher to rescue your husband. How many clothes did you buy for your husband to wear? Your husband abandoned them and didn't wear them. Instead of the new clothes bought by you, your husband will give her husband's salary. Before, he gave it to you, but now no matter how much he works, every month's salary he gives it to you, really. You are very stuck at this time, but you don't confide at all. With both families, afraid that people will not believe that my husband is under a spell, afraid that everyone will shun and hate him, at this time, you still love and care for your husband like that, so you went to find a second teacher. This teacher was shown to you by a close friend of yours named An. People call him Teacher Chin, or he can also be called Teacher Chin. This teacher also studied talismans in Cambodia. When you walk in to meet the teacher, even though you haven't said anything, Teacher Chin, hey, I know your husband is under a very heavy spell. That's why the teacher said your husband is not under one type of charm, but under many types of charms. This little girl is giving it to your husband to eat. My dear guy, this woman even fed my husband another woman's dirty amulet. In addition to this girl, she also tattooed pictures on her chest, and also tattooed in important places. For women, these tattoos are all placed under a spell, so when your husband and children have sex with them, it is impossible to forget them. Even though you didn't tell me anything about this Willow, this teacher also knows that this girl has tattoos on her body and even casts spells in it. However, this Chin teacher knows everything, but because of the present teacher Chin no longer has Guider to solve this amulet, so he introduces you to a more skilled teacher, that is his master. This teacher is in Travin, because time is also urgent because he wants to save your husband, so you asked for the address and drove all the way to Travin to find this teacher. Although the road is also difficult, because this teacher's house is not located on the main road, but has to go through winding alleys, winding like that, going into very long alleys, you are very tired. Luckily, you finally went to the teacher's house. When you met the teacher, he also said that your husband was currently covered in many kinds of charms. After that, the teacher asked you to give him a plate. Picture of your husband. Then the teacher gave you an gai root. The teacher said, every day you mix it with food or water to feed your husband, slowly your husband will get better. Every night the teacher also held your husband's picture up on the altar to recite the mantra, calling on your husband to wake up quickly and return to his family. In fact, this teacher did not take any money. But you still offered a few 100,000 to the ancestor so he could buy fruit and incense to put on the ancestor's altar. That was also your sincerity, and the teacher didn't ask for anything. When you get home, you also follow the teacher's instructions. Every day you also feed your husband a little ngai. Actually, this ngai tuber looks exactly like the water chestnut in my hometown, but inside it is very different. It has been enchanted. When you do as the teacher says, after about 10 days, your husband will feel better. At this time, your husband's personality will no longer be as needy as before, and he will also know how to care for his wife and children. Every time your husband comes home from work, he hugs his wife, then hugs his stomach and talks to his children. At this time, you feel a little happier, even though you also see that your husband is still texting with the children. There, but not often with it, not as much as before. The teacher also said that my husband and children will gradually run out. Right now, you see that your husband has gotten a lot better, and you also feel somewhat reassured, but it wasn't until a month later that you discovered that your husband was still having an affair with you, because you saw in your husband's Facebook messages that the two of you met at the motel, and your husband also secretly transferred money. For that you, really at this point you couldn't bear it anymore, you decided to leave for a few days, to see how your husband would react. After that, you went to Longan City. You stay at the house of a sister. This sister's name is Miss Lin. This Miss Lin sells cosmetics in the same system as you. After you, also bewitched by a guy, then ran away from home with a worthless girl, because this girl was her son's lover, but she did not accept this child. He's very much a gangster and he's also tattooed, so my family doesn't like it. Then he cast a love spell to kidnap my son. I asked this Uncle Nam, that is, the teacher. Nam, when Uncle Nam saw the picture of her son, Uncle Nam knew that his son was under a spell. He also said that within 7 days I will take a picture of this Nam and bring him back to his family. It's true as you said, within a week, your son returned to you. Especially after your son returned, he didn't go anywhere anymore. Knowing this information, it was also very fun, so the next day, early in the morning, you also ran to Uncle Nam's house. When you met Uncle Nam, you saw Uncle Nam. Even though he was a teacher, he was very simple. He looked like a farmer. The people must have noticed that Dang's face appeared all over. Angel. After my friend told me about her husband's situation, he asked me if I had brought a picture of my husband with me. When I looked at the picture, Uncle Nam also said that my husband had many kinds of charms, but this charm is very heavy, but I can solve it for your husband. Then Uncle Nam went to the altar. Uncle Nam burned incense and then burned incense on the altar. On the altar, Uncle Nam also worshipped the Kwankan statue. Uncle Nam pulled out 2 talismans from behind. On the statue of Kwankan, these 2 talismans are red on one side and white on the other. On the white side, the New Year uncle writes your husband's name and date of birth on it. Uncle Nam folded these 2 talismans and placed them in a bag, then told his friend to put this talisman in a box and close the lid to keep it safe. Your husband won't let your husband go, and Mr. Nam also put the talisman in a bag and folded it, but this talisman is not put in a glass box. This talisman must be put in. Go straight to the incense bowl on the ancestral altar in your family. Uncle Nam was still afraid that you would stick it in the wrong direction, so Uncle Nam was very careful, then put an arrow on the talisman to let you know how to insert it in the direction of the arrow so that it wouldn't be mixed up. Then Uncle Nam said that's okay, you can go home. After you left Longan, your husband called back or not, you didn't say until you met Uncle Nam. That is, Teacher Nam this year. Uncle Nam also gave you 2 talismans and then you returned home, that is, back to that rented house in Bin Thuong. When you return home, you also follow Uncle Nam's words, put those 2 talismans in the correct position as Uncle Nam told you, you said. It's really surprising, within a month your husband has changed clearly and is back to normal as before. Your husband also completely cut off contact with the woman named Willow, as well as delete the phone numbers related to that girl. Your husband also knew his mistake and came back to apologize profusely. At this point, you said you were happy. You wanted to cry. After your husband woke up, you took him back to Longan to meet Mr. Nam to thank him, even though it was Mr. Nam this time. Even if you don't accept money or any gifts, you and your husband still buy a fruit tray to show your sincerity. Through this story, I would also like to give advice to everyone, that each of us should love our family, should not go around promiscuously. Today's society is real fake. I can't tell, your story has ended. Thank you everyone for watching the video. See you all in the next video.